The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. In the Masters, Alexei Dreev and Lazaro Bruzon won their games. Either can still take first, but the Russian veteran has the pole position. Group B chasers Ashwin and Moradiabadi foiled each other with a draw. So despite losing his game, Hovhannes Gabuzian is the B champion. Final round coverage starts now. 20 international chess professionals compete in St. Louis as USChessChamps.com presents the second annual Fall Chess Classic. Wouldn't you know it, pole position was good enough for Alexei Dreev, who just mere minutes ago clinched Field A here at the Fall Chess Classic. But it's not all over yet. Come on into the studio, it's our final day. Hello chess fans, Ben Simon here with International Master Eric Rosen. And we are going to have a lot of fun today for the next 90 minutes. Even though we know who the champions are as of moments ago, there's still a lot to play for, Eric.
Oh, that's very true. We still have most of the games still underway. And in round 9, I know the players are more tired than usual, so we might see some more blunders and more drama than some of the earlier rounds.
Indeed. Let's take a look at our group standings for A, and this is going into the 9th round. This does not include the games that have been completed thus far. And as you see our story going into the round, Alexei Dreev leading by a point. Any score from him against his opponent would be sufficient. And he was able to draw against Setherman with the black pieces, and so he clinches Group A. Bruzon's game is still in progress, and we'll be sure to check that out as we progress into the round. Okay, and here's Group B standings after 8 rounds of play. And we knew yesterday that Hovhannes Gabuzian was going to clinch the field. He is the champion. We'll be talking to him later on in this program. But still a lot more to play for. And actually, his game today against you is going to be could be storybook, Eric.
Oh, it's very true. We'll get to that in just a moment. But if Christopher Yu does win, he gets his final IM norm, and that would make him the youngest international master in the U.S.
And not only is he playing for the norm, but he's up against all the odds. He has the black pieces. He's the lowest seed. Okay, he's in last place. Gabuzian's in first place. He's the top seed. So this is going to be a fun game if he's able to pull something out here against Gabuzian. The tournament format is as follows. This tournament has been 2 10-player round robins. Today is the final round. A time control is 90 minutes for the first 40 moves, and then 30 minutes added on for the remainder of the game. There is a 30-second increment from move number 1, and it's important to note that there is a no draw rule before move 30 in place. So you cannot agree to a draw before black's 30th move. Okay, we welcome you to join us on this last day on all forms of social media. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Twitch and USChessChamps.com. Be sure to use the hashtag FallChessClassic to join the conversation. And if you have any really cool questions you'd like to shoot our way in the YouTube chat, be sure to do that. We'll take a look. Okay, the round 9 pairings. Here's what's happening right now, 2 floors above us in St. Louis. So round 9 pairings are as follows. Yuri Kuzabov versus Eric Hansen. Alex Linderman versus Varuzhin Akobian. Ray Robson versus Daro Sviritz. And then what we had as being our 2 key matchups, first Lazaro Bruzon versus Yoon Ludwig Hammer. It's no longer a game to determine first place for Bruzon, but here is the game that has just ended that has determined the champion, Eric.
That's right, Grandmaster Setherman against Alexei Dreev. Alexei, the oldest player in Group A, but playing some of the most solid chess of the event. He's the only player in either group not to lose a single game. And he had a marathon game yesterday after the broadcast ended against Ray Robson. It was a game that should have been a draw, but he just kept grinding, and eventually took home the points, which put him in excellent standing to draw today and clinch victory. So we could take a look at just how this game ended. Not the most exciting finish. They did agree to a draw on move 30, relatively symmetrical pawn structure, and it seemed like Dreev was more than happy to end things early and enjoy the rest of his time in St. Louis as the Group A champion.
Kind of a quiet turn of events, but that's what you get in a round robin sometimes. Dreev earned it, and he earned it going into this round. So that is Group A for you. That's where we stand right now. Let's see the pairings for our challengers section. We have Elshan Moradiabadi versus Sergei Azarov, Danish Boros versus Ashwin Jayram, Conrad Holt versus Steven Zarek, Brandon Jacobsen versus Akshat Chandra, and our David versus Goliath, Eric.
That's right, Grandmaster Hovhannes Gabuzian playing the youngster Christopher Yu. Christopher has a chance to make history if he wins this game with the black pieces. He'll not only become the youngest international master in the U.S., he could become the youngest international master in U.S. history.
Yes, it's important to point out that despite what the graphic says, Christopher Yu is not a GM. He is a FIDE master. He's looking for that IM title, and he might earn it today. A little bit of a long shot, but it's going to be an amazing story if he can.
That's right. He still has a lot of work cut out for him in this current position. If we take a look at what's going on, this seems to be the same story of the tournament, at least for Gabuzian. Every game we see Gabuzian just having a substantial time advantage. This time it's no different. He has over 50 minutes left. Christopher Yu under 3 minutes to make 9 more moves. And okay, Gabuzian is the one thinking here, but he's playing still pretty rapidly despite the amount of time that he has. Looks like he just played rook to a8. And if we try and evaluate the position, just updating the board here, rook c4 was played and then rook a8. Honestly, this looks a bit drawish given that the pawn structure is nearly completely symmetrical. There's 2 rooks and a bishop for each side. And it looks like play is unraveling pretty quickly here. It looks like Christopher played king to g7, and then one more move was played rook to e1. We see Gabuzian stretching their hands over his head. Looks somewhat relaxed, somewhat comfortable. And now we see the somewhat menacing threat in the position, rook e to e8. And Christopher has some issues to deal with. I'm not sure how he's going to save this bishop on f8, because white is simply threatening to trap the bishop. And I'm not actually seeing any escape here for black. Looks like the last move, king g7, was an attempt to get out of the pin, but wasn't entirely helpful. And unfortunately for black, these rooks are completely out of play. Doesn't seem like there's any way to for either rook to defend the bishop. The only idea that I can spot here for black is to go for rook to c2 and try and double up on the second rank. But I don't think this is working after a move like rook e8 and then rook b, b2. White would have the simple bishop to e3, simply defending f2, and then black is just going down the bishop. I think Gabuzian might win very quickly here. We see Christopher reaching for a piece. Looks like he played rook to b7. Rook b7, this is another defensive resource, which I overlooked. Now the point is that the rook is covering the e7 square, and after rook to e8, there would be bishop to e7. Trying to make out what's being played. The board looks so far away, maybe we can zoom in there to get a better look. Oh, wow. Tactics are happening for white. We see a rook has landed on f8, essentially sacrificing itself for the bishop. There's mating ideas. If king takes g7, white to move and mate in 2. This is just about resignable for Christopher. Do you see the mate in 2 here, Ben, in this position?
Yeah, I've actually, this is a really fun one. Bishop to h6.
Bishop h6, yeah,
Bring
the rook is
king
cutting
over.
off the king. Yeah. After king g8, rook e8 would be check and mate. So I think Christopher is just realizing his doom here. Just seems like he got too low on time and couldn't find the best defensive resources Now he's not resigning. Looks like he did play a move. Rook take d4. But this seems all but hopeless, as white is simply up a bishop for a pawn. Looks like Gabuzian has moved his rook back to the center, rook to d8. I would expect a handshake at any point here, especially with Christopher so on time. And white still has some sort of mating attack. There might be ideas of rook e to e8, maybe combined with bishop g5, and then rook g8 would be some sort of checkmating idea. On top of that, this d-pawn is isolated. It's incredibly weak. So impressive play by Gabuzian, not being afraid of the youngster, and looks like he's going to finish very strong.
Well, if there we go.
Christopher tipping over his king in dramatic fashion. You saw this once before this tournament. Not something you see every day at high-level chess with the king being tipped over, but that's amazing finish for Gabuzian, and tough finish for Christopher Yu. I'm sure he'll get future chances to get his final norm, but it's been Gabuzian's tournament.
Really has been, and we had Christopher Yu in here twice, and people in the chat they loved him. They were like, "How old is this kid? He's 11. He's so well spoken." So I really hope we do see Christopher Yu in future tournaments. I'm sure we will here at the St. Louis Chess Club. It's just the beginning for him.
It's very true.
It's important to note one thing I wanted to point out about that matchup. Okay. Well, I'll save that for just a moment because we do have Alexei Dreev, the Group A champion, ready to come in for an interview. Let's glance around the horn and see what happens while we get him set up.
Sure. Not entirely sure which game to look at, but I am poking around here. Being told Lenderman's game looks interesting. Wow. Yeah, we have the position up here. Lenderman's game, complete mess against Bruzon Akobian, and Bruzon having just over a minute left to make over 19 moves. That's not a lot of time for such a chaotic position. We see the black king just stuck in the center on e8. Now there is a very strong pawn on e3, which could be somewhat problematic for white. The knight is very stable on d5. So that's why I'm having a hard time assessing this position, as, visually it looks very good for white, but it's not clear if white has any immediate breakthroughs or threats. If we go back here to see how this all came about, we see that white had a very nice kind of explosive move in the center, pawn to e4, trying to open up the e-file before black could get the king safe. After bishop takes c3, and d take e4, looks like black was able to snag a pawn. But now we see bishop to b4, very nice positional move, targeting the queen and controlling the f8 square. So after the queen moves away, there would be no hope for black to castle anytime soon in this position. And after queen take a7, seems like momentum is going in white's way. Now we will come back to this game, but I do want to welcome the winner of Group A, Alexei Dreev. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Very good performance.
Yeah.
What was it like for you this tournament? You did not lose a single game. Was this surprising for you in any way, or what was your
Not
overall
so
thoughts?
surprising. Yeah, I played well. Today game was not so interesting, but yesterday game was nice against Robson. Very interesting handing was for my book, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have the yesterday's game
Yes,
to look at.
I will include this game to my book because it's really interesting.
I do want to ask, though, because, of course, the viewers can find the full game played yesterday on uschesschamps.com. That particular endgame, the one that you reached with the pawn and knight versus bishop, is that a particular endgame that you've studied before?
No, I don't study. It's just calculate during the game.
Okay. And going into this game, were you just playing for a draw, or are you just trying to play normal chess?
Yeah, I played normal chess, but after opening, my position maybe was slightly better because Yes, critical. Yes, it's critical line, but maybe bishop d3. Kramnik played bishop d3 instead of queen b3 against Morozevich. Oh, of course, I was ready here. Okay, it's a normal move. And after queen b3, rook a7, I think, yes, bishop d2, e6. And white tried to play for two bishops, but after knight h4, the problem is that after bishop f4, f3, I can play dc4.
Yeah, this is a nice idea to utilize a
yes.
d5 square.
I am slightly better, but not too much. He played g3 only move because g5 was threat. Take, b5, queen to c5. I played very similar line for black, and white have two bishops here, and position is equal, still equal. But here, instead of bishop, white have knight on h4. So it's very strange, but maybe not too much. dc5, bishop c5, but maybe I played not so active. In normal situation, maybe I played.
I was going to ask
active,
if this were an earlier round, would you maybe be more energetic to play for a win?
Yeah, I tried to play, but not too much. Rook d7, yes, queen b6, and but maybe no reasons for some serious here. Yes, slightly better for black, but not too much. Not too much.
Seems like this is the best, or most you could ask for going into last round, especially with the tournament situation.
That's game is not interesting.
Sure. Yeah, we won't spend too much time. It just the draw was agreed upon on.
Yes,
on
but I can say that my position was seriously better. Maybe around equal.
Well, fair enough.
Yes.
So I was checking the live rating list, 2700chess.com, and you've catapulted in rating points this tournament. I don't know if you've checked, I think gaining approximately 25 points, which is not so easy to do
it's not
at your level.
27, okay, it's a good rating, of course, but it's not my dream. I was there already. So, if I will back, okay, it will be good, but it's not my dream.
So what are your goals going forward? Are you looking to play more strong events, or focus on writing books?
I try to play chess, of course, and I try be as coach and as writer a little bit. So maybe I'm 50% player now, not 100% like another players here. So maybe I'm more coach now. Because of course I am not so young for chess already. I understand it, but sometimes I play it not so bad as you see.
That's very true, and especially being the oldest player in the field, do you feel like maybe you have some advantage in terms of experience over the younger players?
Yes, I have experience, of course. Yes, yes, I think I can play sometimes more, but I'm more focused to be coach.
Fair enough.
Yes. So, but I think I will play sometimes more.
And I have one more question for you, unrelated to this event, but very relevant in the chess world. Next month is a World Championship match between Carlsen and Caruana. Who are you rooting for, and who do you think will win the match?
I think chances is equal, absolutely equal. I think Caruana can win, of course, can win, but who knows what could be. Absolutely equal match, is my opinion.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations again on a very excellent performance. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more coverage from the 2018 Fall Chess Classic.
A moment comes in chess when you need to test yourself at a different level. Chess 24 Premium offers the tools that you need to reach your maximum potential. From hundreds of interactive video lessons to becoming part of the Chess 24 community. You can analyze with friends or coach your students live. You get 24/7 coverage of chess news and events, access to premium analysis and commentary, and the chance to interact with grandmasters and other top players and coaches. Get advice from the best and even challenge them to a battle. Be the best chess player you can be. It's time to level up your game with Chess 24 Premium membership.
Welcome back, everyone, to the 2018 Fall Chess Classic. I'm joined by another special guest, Hovhannes Gabuzian, after defeating Christopher Yu. Congratulations on a stellar tournament performance. So I want to ask about this game because you were in a situation you already clinched the first place prize, but your opponent was playing for his final international master norm. And he was in a must-win situation for the black pieces. Have you been in the situation before where your opponent is playing for a norm in the last round and you have to kind of be the one who takes them down?
Well, I remember it happened a couple of times, but usually you need just try to play your chess. But my opponent need a draw or a win to get norm. I didn't even know about it.
He would have needed to win this game.
Then you just need to play. And I was like already done with the tournament. I mean, I fixed the first place. I decided just to play a good game. I didn't know that my opponent is playing for a norm, but he played very well. He was about to succeed, especially after opening.
Yeah, I was at some point I was really liking black's position. It was an opening which seemed very rare.
After c6 move.
Is this something you prepared pawn e4?
Well, no. When I played c6, usually I play here d4, and it's Grunfeld variation
d4, d5.
with well-known theories, like many moves after d5. But I just decided to try to play interesting. I wasn't sure about e4. I just wanted to try it because I remembered sometimes, but I'm not sure if I'm correct. But if pawn is on c4 and knight c3, Blake don't play c6 because of e4. But I'm not sure if it's about this position. I just wanted to try e4, and well, yeah, d5, e5.
And after e5, I was trying to look this up in the database to try to find high-level games.
Maybe it was better firstly to take on d5 and later to play e5, c and d5. Knight d4 in some positions
also looks playable.
Yeah, playable positions.
At least according to the database, this position already after e5 seemed incredibly rare.
Yeah, I felt like it's kind of new position, and I was just trying to play some logical moves.
And I also want to ask you, because you stood out as a player in both fields who was moving the absolutely quickest speed, just basically blitzing out moves. It seemed like most games you were having half-hour to an hour time advantage on the clock. Is this your usual play, or were you trying to, was it kind of specific strategy for this
event? It's my style. I'm playing like I say, every tournament, every single game. It's not like I'm doing something specially, but I'm trying to calculate my moves at the time of my opponent, and later being ready to make move faster. And usually getting this time advantage from the opening gives me some possibilities in the like end game to put my opponent in time trouble, and sometimes like today happened, my opponent blundered the piece because of like time. He had
That's
like
exactly
1
what
minute.
happens,
Yeah,
right.
it happens a lot, and that's my strategy sometimes.
So you're saying that. So I was going to ask if you rely more on intuition than calculation.
Yeah, it's mostly on because sometimes I'm trying to calculate. I'm calculating a lot. It's very important because you can blunder something. But sometimes, like when I'm making more or less positional decisions, I'm trying to depend on my intuition because there are some positions you have nothing to calculate. You just need to feel like how is it better. Something also happened today in the game. Yeah, I'm trying to depend on intuitions.
So take us through the critical moments, because at some point
C5 was very interesting move. I even didn't thought about C5. I missed this move absolutely. I thought about some maybe B6 move or take on C4, maybe better Queen C4 and B6. The idea is to play Bishop A6 and take the castle ability. That was interesting position. I thought many moves here, but I just was waiting for a move. So yeah, C5 was a very interesting move.
And it seemed like he was able to develop very harmoniously.
Yeah, at this moment already I realized that my position is not that good, because black's piece is placed much better than mine. And here, I thought that knight d5 is not that good, but I don't know really why. I thought queen d5, h3, bishop f3 takes, queen f3, takes. I'm sorry, bishop f3, not queen f3. Yeah, queen e5, take on c6, e2, rook e2, bc, rook e7. I wanted to play this endgame. I think it's a little better for white because c pawns are like, okay, rook e8, takes, and king f1. And now I'm threatening both like bishop a3 and rook b1. Maybe it's already equal, but I just wanted to play this position.
Yeah, seems.
Maybe I can make sometimes I thought about a4, a5, rook a4. So maybe it's equal or even a little better for me. But after knight d5, I was in trouble because my pawn structure is very bad now. I have double d pawn and I will have weaknesses soon.
Yeah, it seemed ugly, especially after a bit later when he played this move c4. It seemed like your bishop was just a bit
Well, I'm
stuck.
not sure about c4. I don't like c4 actually, because like after rook b3 how I played, I was thinking about rook a d8. Okay, c4 and d6. Black, if take a look on the queenside pawns of white, it's terrible. Like everything is hanging. Black has d4 square. I'm not sure if I can. Okay, I can try to use white squares, like take on e6, play queen e4. But I don't like this position. After a queen exchange, it will be not so easy for white to play. And also, e5, e6, he can prepare firstly e6, maybe with rook e8, e6. I mean, generally, the pawn structure on queen side is terrible. So after c4, I got some abilities to.
Yeah, so maybe c4
activate
not the most accurate
especially
move.
my bishop on c1.
And going forward here, it seems still like relatively balanced, though.
Yeah, and e6 and d4 was important move because if I leave my pawn on d2, it will be terrible. And now I'm activating all the pieces. And here was the position I told you about. I played by intuition, just d6. I even didn't calculate it. I only saw that queen d6 taking b5 and takes queen d5.
Yeah, I really like this move. It just seems like you.
Yeah, because otherwise I will
quality.
have some problem. And the main idea is it's not about like I'm trying to win back the pawn, but I'm not giving black bishop on g8 opportunity to play somewhere bishop f8 and replace my rook. Just let's imagine for somehow like take on d5, take on e7 somewhere. I mean, and bishop f8 later will take my rook from b4. So
Which is where you want to
I was just trying to close the bishop and to attack b5. So.
Yeah, after d6, it seemed like maybe a shift in momentum.
It's over equal, I think.
But he was getting very low on time. Trying to
more or less.
figure out how to.
And I
defend
realized
everything.
that if we change, like, I take on b5, I will be able to make a little pressure on the queen side. I'm in the pawns, but obviously it should be equal. Rook e8. Here I missed some move on after bishop h6 was correct here because b takes a4 already gives me some play. I thought about like take a b5, rook b5, bishop b3, rook e3, and I missed rook a1 check, because now rook e3, queen a8, and rook b8. And yeah, king g2. No, I mean, that's bad for white. So after bishop h6, I cannot really take on b5. Maybe I need to play here rook b, take and play rook b1, a takes b5, a b5, rook db1, bb1, I'm sorry. Now bishop e3, rook e3, rook e3 maybe, queen a8. No, I mean queen a8 check.
Oh, queen a8.
Yeah.
It's hanging, yeah.
It looks like bad for white. I don't know what should I play after bishop h6. Maybe I missed some opportunity, but that was a good move. After b takes a4, I already have a little advantage.
Yeah, it already seemed pleasant, like all of these pawns for black
rook
are now weak.
I took my rook from the spin. Of course, it also should be drawing. Rook b5 here was maybe interesting move. Yeah, idea is to play somewhere rook h5. For example,
for some mating attack.
Yeah, but here rook h5 is not that good because I can play queen f1 and a6 is hanging. And now the problem is if like he take pawn on c3, I will be able somewhere to play rook a8 because rook on h5 is out of the game now, and I can make pressure on with the 8th rank using it.
So we saw the position around here, but didn't really see where he fell apart.
Well, he was playing correct till the very end. He just blundered his piece. I mean, it's like slightly better for white because I have a little more active pieces and my king is safe. The main problem for black is this. For example, let's imagine if pawn was on h5, that was absolutely equal.
Pawn h5 here.
I mean, no, not the move. Let's imagine that pawn is on h5, the same position, so black is fine because he don't have problems with his king. How it happened? Queen and rook c3, yeah, and rook a6. Now black has the problem with the 8th rank and king. So bishop f8. The point is after rook a8, with the ideal some rook a8 and rook next one to a8. Rook b3 is drawing. Other one, rook b3 and rook b8. So that's not working. I played bishop f4, but yeah, here that was better move. I think some rook b8 maybe, because the rook endgame with d4 pawn should be equal. I think there is not much, and he can activate his play later rook c2 and the rook b2. So that was rook c4 was a little mistake, very little. Rook a8. King g7, rook e1. I thought that I'm winning after rook e1 because I missed g5, which was I think only move here. Because on any other move, I'm threatening to take rook f8 or play rook a8. g5, bishop d2 maybe, rook c2, bishop e3, and this should be like draw. I mean, like a super small advantage for a white, maybe a little pressure, but of course that's the point that he had here 1 minute and just blundered.
Yeah, I mean G5 is the type of move that you would find with a lot of time.
G5, there are no other moves. I'm threatening to play rook f8 and rook e1, e8 also. So both are winning. He played here rook b7, trying to defend from rook 8, but rook f8 and.
Yeah, rook f8 is a nice simple tactical finish. Yeah, I was looking at this earlier and just assumed that you were winning around this point and also missed g5. So
I was sure. I thought, I won because I thought rook c4 is a mistake because rook a8, king g7 is the only move, and rook e1. I thought, I won, and later I see g5. Okay, throw and he blundered.
Wow.
I got lucky.
Well, of course, it didn't matter how this game turned out for you. You still had clinched the game after tomorrow, even though you lost, or after yesterday, after you lost.
Yesterday I lost terribly. I blundered in one move, and so, I don't know why I played very bad.
So how did it feel to lose a game yesterday and then realize you clinched victory because
I had
could catch up to you?
Some mixed feelings. I lost and I guaranteed my first place, so I was sometimes happy and sometimes sad.
A mixed emotion, that makes sense.
But anyway, I was angry because with 6 points I thought that I will be able to fix my first place somehow, and I lost, so I was mostly unhappy.
So what's next for you? I know you're a student at Texas? Are you going to focus on school for the next few months, or do you have?
Yeah, I
tournaments
missed
coming up?
school like 10 days. I was not really studying because during the tournament it's not that easy. You're preparing, you want to take a rest from brain work to relax. So I'll try to catch up my classes for a couple of weeks, but I will play. I have a tournament. Right now I'm going for university tournament in Lubbock, Texas Collegiate Superfinals. It starts like on Saturday, and after I will go back.
Very nice. I have one last question, not related to this tournament. Asked Alexei Dreev this too. Next month is a World Championship match between Carlsen and Caruana. Who are you rooting for in that match, and who do you think will ultimately win?
Well, to be honest, I'm not supporting any of players like spiritually, but I think it will be a very interesting match because right now Caruana is in perfect shape. He's demonstrating a very strong chest, and Carlsen is always strong, so it will be very interesting.
Well, sounds good. Well, I'll let you go and celebrate and maybe rest up, and we'll be back with another quick commercial break. And stay tuned for more action from the 2018 Fall Chess Classic.
That World Championship is going to be one for the ages. I cannot wait for the World Chess Championship next month over in London. Anyway, welcome back to the Fall Chess Classic coverage. It's our final day. We know who the champs are. Ben Simon here with International Master Eric Rosen. And there's some big developments actually over in Group A. Now we know that Bruzon is not fighting for first anymore, but he could be fighting for second.
There's still a lot of prize money on the line, right? There's still some big discrepancies between the top prizes.
Yes, yes. And actually, a strange move was played by Hammer. He moved his knight into the corner. Let's take a look at this game and see if we can figure out why he did this. Maybe he was trying to reposition the knight, but the engines are not happy about this.
I mean, I would not be happy if I was that knight just stuck in the corner. What a depressing move. Let's go back and see what prompted this. We had a somewhat symmetrical pawn structure in this position, almost identical pawn structure. These positions tend to be very drawish, especially at the highest levels. But white had a slight pull in the position, already had the rook controlling the open file, and white had the queen on e3, tying down the rook on a8 to defending the a7 pawn. And in this position, we see white being very ambitious and pushing for more than just a draw, playing this move pawn f4, just gaining space on the king side, having the simple tactical threat of pawn f5 to capitalize on the bishop, which is pinned on e6. So black removed the queen, played queen b4. After rook d2, white defends the pawn on b2, queen a5, and now queen d4. And we can see white is having very nice central control. Even though it's still symmetrical pawn structure, white just has better piece harmony, and especially black's minor pieces are not, especially the knight on c7, not the most impressive. Rook e8 was played, and then queen to d6. And this is a moment we see the Hammer playing very timid knight to a8, which I'm trying to make sense of because it didn't seem like white had the immediate threat against the knight. But now I am realizing there was a tactical threat in this position, as the knight is only defended by the queen on a5. White was threatening to play pawn b4. Simple removal of the guard, after which black would have to move away the queen. If we imagine black just plays a nothing move here, let's say h6 and pawn b4, then the knight is just lost. If a move like queen a3 is played, white can then capture the knight on c7 while defending the knight on c3. And then, of course, if rook c8, there would be rook d8 with check, and white would be happy just to be up a piece. So knight a8, I guess...
I take it that queen b6 is not desirable?
Queen b6 in... Oh, that's actually a good point. Queen b6 was playable. That's a very good point. So maybe white wasn't losing a piece, or black wasn't losing a piece. This actually seems reasonable, but white would still have a positional pole. If we look at the position after knight to a8, it's also possible he might just want to maneuver then knight to b6, which is a slightly more active square, perhaps eyeing the c4 square, which could lead to some more aggression. But for the time being, it seems like white has the advantage. I mean, black's pieces are a bit out of play, and now it's a question, how can white perhaps take advantage of the temporary better piece placement and perhaps keep the initiative in this position? I can imagine a move like maybe rook e2. But I'm also realizing maybe black doesn't want to start with knight b6, but rather wants to play queen b6. And knight a8 would avoid the double pawns if white allows this, like let's say rook e2, queen b6, and then after taking on b6, black could recapture with the knight. So it looks like Hammer is trying to perhaps equalize in this position. Should point out that f5 attempts to win material, but then there would be bishop to d7. So Bruzon is taking his time, and even though his position looks pleasant, he does have a time deficit. After knight a8 was played, he's below 10 minutes. They still have about 15 more moves to make until time gets added to the clock. So that's not a lot of time. He has to average about 30 to 45 seconds per move.
Okay. Well, we'll check back on this game in a little bit. Elsewhere in Group A, we have two longtime U.S. championship rivals. Alexander Linderman is trying to offset the all-time record with Var Akobian. They are 5 draws and 1 win apiece overall all-time. And 4 of those games were played right here in St. Louis, so they're no stranger to this venue at all. What's going on in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I was liking Lenderman's position earlier. It's still incredibly chaotic. Let's back up a few moves and see what is going on. Last left around here, I believe, the pawn on e3, this king still a bit stuck on e8. Looks like black's king was still relatively safe after king f7. Seems like black has everything under control. I really like this configuration with knight on d5. Impossible for white to remove anytime soon. And then supporting the pawn in e3, another very difficult thing to remove. Always a constant headache to have an opponent's pawn so well defended in your own territory. So in this position, Lenderman plays pawn to g3, and then pawn h4. We can see maybe black is the one trying to orchestrate some kingside attack. Pawn a5 was played. Trade happens on g3. And what this does, this whole sequence with pawn h4 and taking on g3, this opens up the h-file, which seems very beneficial for black, now swinging the rook over to h8. And we could imagine maybe some mating ideas someday occurring. If black can perhaps get the queen to h7, there could be a very dangerous battery along the open h-file. So Lenderman seemed to have no fear here. He just starts pushing his passed a-pawn down the board, starting with a6. After king f6, we can see Akobian is making room for the queen. King g2, rook to e8. Always nice to have the rooks connected, and in this case, rook e8 is maybe more of a defensive move, just covering the a8 square, making sure that white won't have immediate promotion threats.
Eric, look at the time here. Var is playing really, really low on the clock. I mean, there's a few seconds delay in that updating, but they still have 5 or so moves to play until time control.
Yeah, we should zoom forward to the current position because several more moves have been played, and it seems like VAR is putting the pressure on Lenderman despite being so low on time. Last move that was played is rook to a8, simply blockading the pawn, and feels like white is just a bit stuck here. I mean, this rook on f3 is pinned, and I'm not sure why Akobian's time still appears to be ticking. Is that a handshake? What just happened? Did they agree to a draw? Or did someone
Looks like
win?
it, yeah. They're signing the score sheets.
I don't think there was any resignation. Oh, bishop e5 check was played.
Oh, skewer.
Ooh. Maybe Akobian just blundered in time pressure. I thought black was the one playing for more than just a draw, but bishop e5 actually looks completely winning. It's just a simple skewer after king f7, bishop take h8, and if the rook recaptures, there's a8 queen. It's possible I just misevaluated the position, not realizing white had some annoying chances. If we back up just a moment here, actually looking at the players, Akobian just looks befuddled.
Yeah, glancing at Stockfish, Lenderman was for choice for a few moves there.
I mean, I really like this move, bishop to d6. Kind of just glanced over this, but it has a double threat of both bishop e8, bishop to e5 with a skewer, and also bishop to b8, which would obstruct the rooks from covering the a8 square. So this is a very nice positional move, optimizing the bishop in perhaps a couple different ways. And it seems like Akobian, he defended against the bishop b8 possibility, but did not defend against bishop e5. And perhaps this was provoked by the severe time trouble.
So now Lenderman, live-wise, is in second standing. However, we do have that Bruzon game still in play, and Bruzon's looking very good. So it's possible that Lenderman will finish this thing in third place. And this thing is Group A, of course.
And that's still a lot of money, right? I know Dreev won $6,000.
Yeah, let's take a look. If we have the prize funds handy, there's a lot at stake here, you know. In Group A, there's $22,000 on the line, and it ensures that everybody is walking away with at least something. There's the numbers, there's the breakdown. $6,000 for our champion, Alexei Dreev, who showed the young kids a thing or two in this one.
That's very true.
They say chess is a young man's game. Well, not in this span of 9 days. And in Group B, not too shabby itself. There is a $14,000 prize fund, and the champion, Hafanas Gabuzian, walks away with $4,000. You saw the fireworks earlier, so very exciting stuff, and a lot to play for in this event.
That's very true. It's some very generous prize funds. A lot of tournaments, especially invitational tournaments, don't necessarily have prize money for every single place. So players have a lot to be thankful for this event.
For sure, for sure. And we still have one more of these tournaments coming up later this year. We'll talk about it in a bit. We've looked at a lot of Group A. Let's say we pay some attention to Group B here.
Yeah, there's a matchup that catches my eye between two roommates and two former teammates as well, having both attended Webster University, the battle between Danish Boros and Ashwin Jayram. Both players are grandmasters living in St. Louis. I'm former teammates with both of them, having graduated from Webster just a few years ago. And it seems like they're not taking any quick draws. Not that they can, but it seems like so far a very hard-fought rook ending. If we go back just a few moves, if we look how the rook ending emerged, it seems like white had some slight pull, and it seemed like, okay, rook to b5, just to exploit the double pawns, looked very attractive for white to maybe try to play for more than just a win or more than just a draw in this position, I should say.
Eric, let me interrupt you for just a second. We do have Alexander Lenderman coming in for an interview, so I'll be back in just a bit.
Well, sounds good. I'll see you later, Ben. Going forward here, let's see how play unraveled after rook to c2, rook b5. Yeah, the double pawn is just a constant worry for black. Rook to c6 was played. Now pawn a4, king d6, king to f3. I'm trying to imagine how white could make further progress in this position. Maybe walk up. Like king g4, king f5, king g6 ideas. But king e6 is played, king g4, g6, and now h4. I really don't see what white is going to do here to break through. I mean, h5 ideas could happen after king f6, h5. There would be g5. It looks like this is what happened, except black played king to e6. And then after h5, g5. Brings us to the current position. I mean, white has a pull. Like, white has optimized the rook on b5, the king on g4, and now it might turn into a waiting game. White would really like to enter with some move like king f5 eventually, or somehow put black in zugzwang. But it seems like black might just be happy to move the rook
what about
back and forth.
a5? A5 idea?
I should mention I want to introduce Alexander Lenderman into the studio, suggesting a5 here. Looks possible, yeah, maybe making further progress.
Because if the rook ever moves from the c5, I mean from the 6th rank, then rook b6 check followed by king f5. Yeah, ba. Yeah, and otherwise the b7 pawn is threatened. I mean, it looks lost to me in first glance, but I might be not seeing something. But unless black can, you know, just a5 ignore it. A5, king f6, let's see.
King f6, and maybe even sacrifice a pawn.
Well, you have to, right? I mean, I think the other one is lost, but this I'm not so sure.
If rook take b6, rook take b6.
Yeah, king e6, king f6, you wait.
And this should be a draw.
Well, I'm never sure with pawn endgames. I mean, I've messed up tons of them in my career, so.
Yeah, these... yeah, sometimes endgames are deceiving, and since there's so few pieces on the board, but it's still very complex.
Yeah.
I do want to switch gears and talk about your game. It seemed like you had a strong finish to the tournament, taking down Bruzon Akobian in a very kind of confusing final few moves. I know he was severely low on time. Take us through the game. I know you weren't fighting for first place, but you were fighting for some nice prize money.
No, it was a very important game for a lot of reasons. You know, I wanted to finish at least even score with white. I wanted to finish on a good note. You know, we've played a lot of draws, you know, in recent times with VAR, and I was white, so I wanted to try to do something. And yeah, prize money, yeah, actually it's quite a substantial difference between even score and +1. And not only that, also the two of us are neck and neck with the ratings for the rating spots in the U.S. Championships. So, no, I mean, this game I took it very seriously, obviously. And I think I surprised him with the setup T5, E3. And he played C5, CD. Yeah, knight takes is also possible. It actually would transpose into, believe it or not, some anti-Grunfeld positions.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which I've analyzed from the other move order, but ED is possible, bishop b5, and I guess knight c6 is probably more common, but bishop d7 probably is playable. Bishop takes d7, queen takes, castles, knight c6, and here I had a relatively critical position to play b3 first or start with d4.
And is this already a point where you're out of any sort of opening preparation?
At this point, yeah, I'm out of concrete prep, but I mean, I knew the general ideas. The one drawback of the move d4 was the move he played in the game, c4. My point of playing d4 here was that if he plays c takes d4 here, I wanted to take with the pawn. And actually, it's not so comfortable for him, because if he develops the bishop to any other square besides e7, then rook e1 checks annoying. And if bishop e7, then knight e5 I thought is unpleasant. So I wanted to be able to do it here. Whereas if I play b3, bishop e7, you know, instead of d4. b3, bishop e7, let's say, bishop b2, castles, d4. Eventually I have to play d4 anyway. cd, then ed is already kind of toothless because I don't have that lead in development.
That's true.
So I would have to take with a knight, and I think black is maybe marginally worse, but more or less fine. So I thought d4 is more ambitious. I mean, I was a bit thinking he might play c4, because otherwise it's actually, like, for example, if he goes bishop e7, then of course I take and gain a tempo. I thought maybe he can play, instead of bishop e7, rook d8. But then, anyway, I play b3, and then I would take with the knight, and then the rook is maybe misplaced on d8. Maybe he would rather have it on c8, let's say. So it was, so I thought c4 is interesting. It took a long time for it. But it's obviously a very double-edged move, but I thought objectively white should be better because I did everything logical. I've developed all my pieces, and he spent 2 tempos, c5, c4, and he's playing black. So I figured, logically wise, can't be that he can just get away with it just with an extra space and comfortable. So I thought there are a lot of interesting options. I'm not sure which one's best, but I thought bishop d2 is very interesting because my idea was, depending on where he develops my bishop, if he develops the bishop to e7 or d6, then I would play b3. And if he goes bishop b4 like in the game, and then I play knight e5. So I don't make a commitment. It's a useful move anyway. Don't declare my intentions. So I thought it's very interesting. I'm not sure what the engine says, but I thought it's very interesting. So he played bishop b4 and then knight e5, and actually this move is very unpleasant for him because, well, like one sample line, for example, is knight e5, de, knight g4 seems like maybe fine, but e6.
Oh, wow.
Game over. Queen e6, queen a4 check. So it's
queen
already
a4.
very easy to...
It's a nice move.
Yeah, I mean, when you do ambitious things like gaining space and you're not castled, you know, you have to be very, very careful.
It's true.
It might work, but you're living on the edges, obviously. So I knew I had to play very energetically, otherwise, you know, he'll have the space. So knight e5. There are a lot of other options, but he chose queen e7. And now I thought also knight g4 is possible, but I thought knight c6 is pretty good as well. And now I want to point out one thing. Instead of knight takes c6, if I play queen a4, that might be inaccurate, because bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, castles, knight takes c6, queen d7.
So black is not losing a pawn.
Yeah, and in fact he might be almost fine. So it was actually, maybe he's still a little bit worse, but anyway, I thought he would be happy to get that. Although I might be winning the exchange anyway. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, kind of transposed into the game. So knight c6, bc, queen a4, rook c8, e4. Yeah, originally my intention was just to play b3, but then takes a5. I think black is probably more or less okay. Well, maybe slightly worse, but manageable. So I played e4, more challenging.
E4 seemed like the most energetic move you could play.
Yeah. I mean, I was always had it in my
file.
radar. I mean, in a lot of different positions, I considered it. And now I think VAR, to his credit, found a great defense. Bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, de, bishop b4. Yeah, now I expected queen d7, and the idea being, if I play bishop c5, to play knight d5.
Knight d5?
Yeah, and then try to play, like, let's say f5, king f7. And if I play rook e1, rook fe1, c5 maybe with chances to hold. But then I spotted an interesting move, queen c2, and I'm not sure how good that is.
In this position?
Yeah. But maybe it's... Actually, now that I think about it, maybe he just goes knight d5, queen e4, queen e6. Anyway, it's a very complicated position, not sure which one's better, but I thought actually he played a better choice. Queen e6, which I didn't seriously consider, but queen a7, knight d5, bishop c5, h5. And now what happened is the momentum kind of changed because he's down a pawn. Well, actually he's not down a pawn, but he will be very soon because his pawns are falling. But suddenly his moves are very easy to play even though he's in time pressure. And suddenly it's actually not so easy for me to make progress as knight is very good on d5. So I'm not sure whether I made some mistakes somewhere along the way or whether we just both played very well. I'm not really sure, but
So is he already in time pressure on move 18?
more or less, yeah. I mean, he was already in time pressure on move look 10, 11. I mean,
Oh,
he
wow.
was burning a lot of time. So,
Because we only took a look at this game towards the very final
I guess the
moves,
fact that I
so
created a lot of problems to him eventually helped me, win because he made a mistake
just
because
wear
of
him down, yeah.
time pressure. But of course, yeah, so we made a lot of moves. What did I play here? Rook e1, rook h6. Yeah, I wanted to play f4 at first, but then I thought he'll play f5. And then I can't do anything with the e4 pawn. I mean, he's willing to give up a pawn, maybe even two, but such a position might be very, very hard to win if at all.
It's true.
Even better. So, I don't know, f3, e3, f4, and queen d7, followed by rook e6. And yeah, he gives back the pawn, but I don't know. I was very much in doubt whether I'll win this game because his moves are very easy to play, and
It's true. Oh, it's a very hard position to evaluate, at least for me, given that it seems like Black has a very stable setup and no clear breakthrough for White. But of course, with time situation.
yeah, my guess was that I'm still somehow better, but I really wasn't 100% sure. It was very unstandard, very, very confusing to me. So
let's get to kind of the critical moments at the end.
sure, yeah,
Because-
because this part, I mean, I'm obviously not sure if we played the most precise ways.
I mean, at some point I thought Black was maybe playing for a win, especially when the queen entered.
I mean, maybe he was
e4.
playing for a win, but I was also, obviously. I mean, it's. I didn't think there. I mean, unless I blunder or overpress, I didn't think I should be worse. But of course, I had to be very careful. I mean, my sense of danger let me down in this tournament quite a bit, so I really made sure to. Yeah, and here, yeah, I think queen e4 must be a mistake because it allows bishop d6, getting my bishop into a very nice square, e5.
So if he doesn't play queen e4, how much better are you if he perhaps
Well,
plays a better move?
my thinking was maybe if he goes rook a8, let's say, defending the pawn, I was, toying with ideas like rook a3 and trying to sack the exchange. I don't know. But of course, he can play rook e8. I mean, I'm not really even sure if I'm better. I mean, I don't know what the computer says. But I think he has good compensation.
Then we should know we're not using engines for this broadcast either. So viewers are more than welcome to use engines on Chess24 or uschesschamps.com. I'm sure you'll be checking the engine lines after this game.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because I feel like I had a very promising position, and what I got wasn't really what I was hoping to get. So even though I really thought I played well, did my best, but no, somehow, somewhere I feel like I lost the way in the dynamic maze. And I got a bit fortunate, obviously, to win in the end. But no, it feels very good because yesterday I got very lucky. I saved a very difficult position, maybe lost position against Dariush. And today also maybe I didn't necessarily have to win. So I guess that compensates for some unnecessary losses I had earlier in the tournament.
Sure. And I do want to ask, you had a strong finish to this tournament. But before this tournament started, you were acting as the U.S. Olympiad coach. Congratulations, by the way, on getting a silver medal this year.
Thank you.
Does being a coach for the U.S. team help you going into a tournament like this? Is it good preparation?
Yeah, absolutely, because a lot of the guys wanted to, let's say, share some ideas with me so I can, let's say, check them for them, make them feel more confident. So obviously I had a much better arsenal. Can't really say, like, for example, in round one, actually, the idea I used, against Kuzubov when in the Catalan, that idea we worked on together at the Olympiad. In fact, I was the one who showed the idea.
Oh, very nice.
And we neutralized China, so I was pretty pleased about that. That was actually almost more or less the only thing I really could input. Everywhere else, they were obviously much better prepared than me. But no, I mean, it's in this particular tournament, I can't necessarily say that I used some deep prep from other guys, and even if I wouldn't necessarily single it out. But certainly in the future, maybe I'll have a chance to.
Sounds good.
So, but no, of course, the really top players, the really deep prep, it's tricky, sharing preps, because there's a lot of times, certain analysis are done with certain other people and are really secrety. And some files are more, people are more open to share. So it depends, really.
And let me ask you, what's next for you after coming back from the Olympiad, playing this event? Going to take a break from tournament chess, or do you have more events on the horizon?
I have 2 more tournaments in St. Louis. Actually, I'm playing a tournament this weekend, a very small event.
Oh, really? Just a local tournament? Or?
Yeah, in St. Louis, here in this club. It's, what's it called? Yeah, this one, yeah. And then Spice Cup. I mean, originally I didn't even know about the district one. I was just gonna spend an extra couple of days here and rest. But since I'm already here, actually, this tournament seems appealing to me somehow, so I'll play it also.
Why not? Do you know, are there any other players in like Group A or B who are playing that event?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Probably not that much. I mean, the reason I'm playing again because I'm staying in St. Louis for Spice Cup after, you know, October 23rd to 28th. So might as well play a weekender. FIDE rated, might be some good players, decent prizes for a weekender, so why not if I'm here?
Fair enough.
Don't have to travel anywhere.
I'll let you get ready for that and rest. Congratulations again after a strong finish.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to get back to the games which are still going on. Do you want to go to the game that we were talking about earlier, where Alex pointing out this idea with pawn to a5, which was played by Danish Boros. I'm sure he didn't overhear us in the studio, but of course it's one of the only ideas in the position. Now I should mention the king had retreated back to f3, so it looks like there was some dancing around. b4, king e6. Oh, so a5 was played and then black waited, understanding that if rook take b6 is probably just a drawn king-pawn ending, even though white would be up a pawn in this line, black would be happy just to wait around with the king, making sure white can't infiltrate with king to f5. So white leaves the tension, plays king f3, and now it's Ashwin's move. It's 22 minutes left. Thinking in this position, it seems like black might just have to continue the waiting game, but I'm sure players will be taking their time, making sure not to make any careless mistakes. Now, I do want to welcome back Ben Simon to the studio. Any updates for us? Any games that have finished?
Yeah, pretty big update actually over in Group A. Ray Robson has defeated Daro Svirts, really cutting off Daro's king on his own back rank with the threat of those 2 rooks coming down, 1-2 punch. Let's take a look at how it happened.
It's actually a pretty aesthetic finish here. If we take a look at the final position, yeah, it looks like a knockout blow is about to be delivered on the c8 square as black's queen is skewered along the c-file. If we go back a few moves, this is a game that we were not looking at before. Seems like Ray had this kind of classic 2 rooks for a queen imbalance, where there's many cases where the 2 rooks just overpower the queen if you can coordinate them well. If we see how this played out after a take b4, bishop take b4, very nice move by white, just penetrating via the 7th rank. And now we see the coordination between the rook on c7 and the bishop on b2. And seems like white is just keeping full initiative in this position. Bishop a2 was played, an attempt to counterattack. And at first it looks scary for white because the rook is attacked, and the rook is the only piece defending the bishop on b2, which is also pressured by the queen. But it seems like Ray had no fear, simply takes on g7, and then after king to f8. Very intriguing move by Ray in this position. And instead of showing it right away, I would really encourage the viewers to pause and think what to do for white in this position, understanding that the rook's attacked and the bishop's pressured, and this rook's under attack. The tactics really came into play for white nicely here with a brilliant move, rook to a7. This is a rook sacrifice, but if the rook on b1 is taken, it would be all fun for white after bishop to g7, and I assume there's a checkmate somewhere in this line after bishop to c4, realizing king h7. Maybe there's no mate, but at the very least white would win back the queen. Excuse me if I said mate in 2 earlier. I forgot that king h7 could be played, but white would be completely winning in this position, as after bishop takes queen, white would be up the exchange. So for this reason, after rook a7, Black played queen to c2, and after this, white simply plays rook c1, and game is over.
We've got two more results, Eric. In Group A, Bruzon and Hammer have drawn. In Group B, Elshan Mordiabadi and Sergei Azarov have drawn their game. But one game I want to look at, just so we don't miss anything, is Brandon Jacobsen versus Akshat Chandra in Group B. These guys are, they're just about to make time control. They're on the 40th move. Let's see where they stand.
Let's check it out. We see them on the, now in the center of the frame there. Looks like both players actually have reached move 40. If we just go back to see how this is unfolding, I'm counting material. Looks like Akshat is just up a clean pawn after rook to a8, king to g7, and then rook back to a7. Maybe Brandon is hoping for some repetition, but clearly Akshat is playing for the win with the material advantage. After king g6, rook to b7, and knight e4, both players get extra half hour on the clock. Looks like there may have been some scramble towards move 40 there, but the position looks really, really attractive for Black, as the two potential weaknesses in Black's position, this pawn on b6 and the pawn on f7, are both well defended. The bishop on c5, very stable piece, and the rook on f4 covering backwards to defend the f7 pawn. And meanwhile, white has a very juicy target on f2, which doesn't look like it can be defended another time. It's only defended by the king. It's attacked twice by the knight and by the bishop. And if Black goes up another pawn here, it should just be a completely decisive advantage for Akshat, which would be a nice finish if he can wrap up the tournament with a win.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, Akshat's had kind of a tough event. Right now he's sitting at 3 points. So, it's a big difference right there from morale. As far as Group A goes, there's one game remaining, and we should jump over to it. Yuri Kuzubov, the Ukrainian, taking on our favorite Canadian, Eric Hansen.
Yeah, we have not. I don't think they've looked at this game yet. And
no, we haven't. It's not looking too good for the chess bra.
Yeah, of course, Eric Hansen, a fan favorite of many of the Twitch viewers and the YouTube viewers. But, yeah, the position looks pretty ugly for Black. Just counting material, white is up 2 pawns. And white just has, look at this beautiful chain of pieces. Everything is defending everything pretty much. There's not a single thing in white's position that's undefended, which is very nice when it's a relatively open position. And it seems like white is playing some nice restrictive chess. If we go back here, they have reached move 40, so both players do have more time on the clock. If we see how this played out, we can go back even further, just trying to find a moment where it was slightly quieter and see how the position unraveled. Because this position, it was equal material. We see, okay, position's relatively quiet, relatively closed. Let's just play through the moves here and see how white was able to.
The game has ended. Eric Hansen has resigned. Congratulations to Yuri Kuzubov on this Group A victory. And that's the last game in Group A. Group A has wrapped up very early today on the last day. They want to go and get some rest, I guess. Long tournament.
No, that's very true. I don't think there's been a single day in the broadcast where all of the games in one group have finished before we ended, which I'm sure Eric is not fully happy about that. But I heard there's a dinner for the players this evening, which I'm sure many of the players will be attending, so maybe they have to kind of save their appetites for that event.
Yeah, it's going to be delicious. We're going too, right?
I'm going.
Like, I'm going to crash it if I'm not invited. I'm pretty sure I'm going.
Now, big question, is there any pumpkin pie, any pumpkin dishes?
It's an Italian restaurant. I don't think that's an Italian dish. But, you don't know. Pumpkin spice, everything.
Yeah.
Pumpkin pie.
It's true.
Be a lot of fun. Okay, so Group B. Did you get everything you wanted out of our roommate matchup, Boros versus Ashwin?
That's certainly a game that we should keep an eye on, I should say, given that it's probably going to be one of the longer battles. Seems like Danish here is trying to grind things down. We see Ashwin has below 16 minutes left. Not in time trouble just yet, but sometimes with these endings, if it's complicated and requires calculation, it can very easily drain time from the clock. And if White is able to keep the pressure and maybe prolong the game, say 20, 30 more moves, we can imagine a situation where Black could be low on time. Going back here, looks like the kings were just kind of, what's going on after? So after b4 was played, a5, really not much progress has been made. It's Danish who is still thinking here. I'm sure he realizes that the king can't really realistically penetrate via f5. So the only other idea would be perhaps to walk to the queen side. But once the king gets to d3, all of the squares are controlled around the king, and there would be no clear way to break through. So then it kind of comes down to the tension on the queen side between these pawns, and with the rook on b5, if there's any progress to be made. But if I had to put money on it, I would think that Ashwin should be able to easily hold a draw in this position.
Very well. I think there's one more game we haven't seen in Group B. Conrad Holt versus Steven Zerk. These two competitors haven't met in a classical game since the 2010 U.S. Juniors.
Wow.
Steven Zerk got the victory with White in that game, so it's been a long time.
Well, you know what? I actually played in that event. Yeah. That was my first event in St. Louis. I played both Conrad and Steven. It was an invitational 9-round tournament. It was back when Sam Shankland was still an international master.
Wow.
There was an interesting backstory to that event, because going into that event, Shankland had a very disappointing tournament like a week or two before, and then gave an interview saying that he was going to quit chess after playing the junior. Shankland proceeded to lose his first 2 games of that event, and then he went on to win the tournament. He beat Ray in an Armageddon playoff, and that qualified Shankland for next year's U.S. Championship, for the World Junior Championship. So I'm sure it's a very memorable event for U.S. chess history, given that it kind of encouraged Shankland to keep playing, and of course we know what happened just recently. So
U.S. champion Sam Shankland in the 2700 club now, amazing, you know.
So it's nice to play in that event. That was one of the first times that they had commentary, and they were having commentary in Studio A, and
which was a classroom back then. It wasn't even
Studio
A.
Classroom, right? Yeah. Do you want to guess who the commentators were?
Was it Ben and Aviv back then?
Aviv was not there. So Feingold, I think, was there for part of it. I believe it was Feingold and Jennifer Shahadi. And then on select days, at the beginning of the end of the tournament, Hikaru Nakamura was doing full round commentary.
Right.
So my first ever interview in the studio was with Nakamura. He was kind of questioning me about all my mistakes. So I have to find the archives to that.
It might be hard to find, actually. That predates our YouTube channel, actually.
Yeah, it might be on live stream or something.
Good luck. Yeah,
files.
Ben and Jen. That was one of the original commentary teams back in the day. Okay, so
well, we should take a look at what's going on.
Yeah, let's do that after we reminisce.
Those great memories. So we have a situation. Conrad Holt's having the bishop pair, Steven Zerk having the knight pair. I know both of these players maybe not having the best event, especially Conrad Holt going down hard yesterday against Christopher Yu, maybe trying to stop the bleeding today. It's a weird position. Normally in the endgame, 2 bishops are much preferable over 2 knights, but it's a relatively closed position. Like, the structure is very static. There's no immediate breaks to open things up for either player. And I really like the coordination among the knights for Zerk in this position. They support each other. d4 is very well controlled, and there might be some future idea of perhaps going for knight f3, and maybe going pawn grabbing with knight take h2. Now Zerk is actually Conrad played king f2, maybe taking some defensive measures, and now Zerk is thinking in this position what to do next. Should note that a move like knight f3 looks energetic, but it could walk into h4, which would maybe alleviate white's backward pawn weakness. And of course, black should not en passant here due to king take f3. So, so this still is a possible variation. Black could perhaps continue with knight c to d4 and try and start crawling around his opponent with the knights. But I mean, I would think the position should be drawn somehow. There's enough imbalance where maybe there could be a decisive result, but I mean, for the time being, it doesn't seem like either player has any glaring weaknesses that the opponent could take advantage of. So I'm expecting maybe still a long fight, but should eventually end in a draw.
And once again, if you're joining us on uschesschamps.com, you see that there are only 3 games remaining, all in Group B. We have champions decided in both sections. And now perhaps might be a good time to talk about some upcoming events here at the St. Louis Chess Club.
For sure.
So this weekend, what you heard Alexander Lenderman talk about was the St. Louis District Championships. That's an open event. If you'd like to play on it, you can find more information on our website, stlouischessclub.org. We have those big open events pretty frequently, maybe once every month or 2 months. But we also have a lot of smaller events, weekly quads and different events of that nature. So more information, stlouischessclub.org. As far as the invitationals go, this Fall Classic is part of a series. It's the 3 of 4 seasonal classics we have each year, and we have another one coming up next month. It's the 2018 Winter Chess Classic, 2 10-player round robins. It's the same format as this event, and you might see some familiar names and learn about some new ones as well. Starts November 5 at uschesschamps.com. After that, we have a Norm event. It's the 2018 St. Louis Invitational. Now, we saw Chris Yu maybe looking at a Norm possibility for this event. Didn't pan out. But this event, the Invitational, is all about the norms. We'll have a Grandmaster Norm section and an International Master Norm section where the name of the game is to secure the norms and maybe even a title. That begins on November 16th at uschesschamps.com. And then we turn our attention to the world stage. It's the World Chess Championship, Carlsen and Caruana. Round-by-round coverage, abbreviated commentary with Yasser, Jen, and Maurice begins on November 9, the first day of the first game of that match. And they won't only be covering the World Championship, Carlsen Caruana, they'll also be talking about the World Women's Championship. It's a 64-player knockout in Russia, and Americans Irina Krush and Sabina Feuser, both former U.S. women's champions, will be in that field. So you'll have the best of both from London and from Russia. Okay, to be specific, Khanty-Mansiysk. And then we close out the year in London again, but this time it's the finale of the Grand Chess Tour at the London Chess Classic. Fabiano Caruana, maybe the world champion at that point, will be joined by Hikaru Nakamura, Levan Aronyan, and MVL. It's a miniature knockout, 4 players, classical rapid and blitz games. It's going to be so much fun, and you can get the entire schedule at grandchesstour.org. That begins on December the 11th. Full coverage of that one. Really don't want to miss it. Eric, something funny actually came out a couple days ago in regards to the World Championship. The marketing arm of World Chess Federation, which is called World Chess, has released a new app. It's called Mates.
Have you
tried that out? It's to find a chess opponent in your area.
But it's branded as a dating app. Very unusual idea, but I'll admit I was playing around with it last night.
We both tried it out, yeah.
Yeah, and the way it works, you create a profile, you take a selfie, and then you can activate yourself.
You put the selfie in a chess piece, too. You have to have a
you need
background.
to have like an icon, like you can choose king or knight.
I chose the knight.
Yeah. But you basically activate yourself for an hour, and then you see who's around to play chess with. I did this last night. And
you're supposed. The idea is you're supposed to meet in person. You chat a few times. Be like, hey, let's meet at the library or the corner bookstore.
And the app is still not so popular yet. Like, there's very few people using it.
No way.
So when I activated myself last night, the closest people nearby were over 500 miles away. But someone did connect with me, and at first I didn't know who it was, but it was someone who has been watching the Fall Classic commentary who recognized me, and we chatted for a bit. It was pretty interesting experience. It was a bit too far away to meet for a chess game, but yeah, it should be an interesting app when more people start using it.
Right. So in my experience, I actually did find someone who was 2.5 miles away over at Wash U here in St. Louis, and we didn't chat though. But it was cool seeing like the people that were generating. The next one is about 230 miles away. But what this is neat for, actually, in all seriousness, for those people going to London for the World Championship, you're going to have a lot of people wandering about and watching this. And while it sounds kind of silly because you're thinking, well, I'm basically at a chess convention with all these other chess players, how hard can it be to find a game? Well, some people want to watch the match. Some people are looking at a game at other times. And the profile is only active for an hour. So I'll be over there in London next month, and we'll see if I can find an opponent with the Mates app.
It still feels weird to say, but I feel like it should be branded as more of a find a chess game app rather than a dating app. But
well, they basically took a dating app and changed the template, right?
That is true.
I mean, you can see a lot of similarities to another dating app that the developers made when you use Mates. I'd recommend checking it out. It's good for laughs and maybe a chess game if you are willing to chat and find someone in your area. Okay, so these 3 games left. We are about to close the show and close our broadcast tenure for this event, but before we do that, shall we revisit every game that's still in progress one last time?
Yeah, we can take a quick round the games and try and make some final predictions. I want to start with the game between Boros and Ashwin. Rooks have come off the board, and White's last move was king to b4, and it looks like Black now has to make some concession. All of the pawns on the board for both sides are fixed, and now Black has to retreat this king, which would allow White to enter via c5. I'm still thinking that, this should just be a dead draw. Black should play king d7, and after king c5, king to e6. And then White is in a situation where, there's no more progress to be made. All these squares are controlled by Black. The king would have to retreat, and we can repeat the same position. So I think this is safe to say that it will be a draw very, very soon. If we bounce back to the Conrad Holtz game, nothing much has changed here. Steven Zerk still has 2 knights. Conrad still has 2 bishops. Expecting a draw in this game, but who knows? Maybe the players will be motivated to fight for more, given the prize money. And then you said there was one more game still going?
Yes, Brandon Jacobsen versus Akshat Chandra. And Chandra is looking, this one does not look drawn.
Right, this just looks like a crushing advantage for Black, already being up a pawn with f2 just undefended. If you go back just a couple moves, it seems like Akshat is not even taking the pawn, just improving the position with pawn h4. Somewhat nice move, maybe having ideas of pawn h3 to destabilize this configuration on White's king side. And then after rook to b8, seems like Akshat is pondering the way to try and go for the kill here. I would imagine the pawn on f2 could be taken. Knight take f2 looks like a free pawn. Not sure if there's anything better, but Akshat, of course, very serious player. If he sees a good move, he will always be striving to look for a better move, but I would have to put my money on him in this game.
Yeah, it looks good for Akshat. Now, if Akshat Chandra wins, he will finish still in the lower half, but he will walk away with 4 points, which, as we said before, to win the last game, it does something for morale. You know, you feel like you did something even though you didn't finish in the top of the league, right?
Right.
Okay, so while we still have Group B in progress, we know who the champion is, Akobian. Let's take a look at the final standings for Group A in this event. Alexei Dreev showed the young ones who's boss, the only Gen Xer in this event, 6.5 points. Going up from the bottom, Darrow Spirit, Setherman, Hammer, Hansen, Robson, Akobian, Kuzabov, Linderman, Bruzon, and then Dreev. Did you see anything that surprised you in this event when it came to Group A, Eric?
Surprises in Group A, I mean, of course, Alexei Dreev just being so solid. I was expecting maybe one of the younger players, someone like Robson or Bruzon, to perhaps take home the first place prize. But it's surprising when the older players can really show who's boss against the younger field.
For sure. Well, I think that will do it for our run here for the Fall Classic. We've had a lot of fun, and it's all thanks to the world's greatest production B team. Tammy Hyde is the streamer. We want to thank Dennis LaRue for his day filling in, Eric Mosel for his help, Kite Lee for being on call as always, Isaac Schrantz, our graphic and audio man, and then Danny Machuca, of course, running the board as our technical director and, in essence, running the entire show. So, that will do it. Eric,
don't forget the pumpkins. We have to thank the pumpkins, right?
We've had minimal rot with these pumpkins. We only had to throw one away. This one's getting a little soft, and they certainly must exit the studio whenever we do. So, all pumpkins, real, fake, people, thank you for all watching this event. We've had a blast. There they go. So, until next time, it's the Winter Classic. Remember, that begins on November 5, and it's going to be the same format as this event. You can catch it on uschesschamps.com. The first round will begin at 1 p.m. Central Time, and we will be on the air with you at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. And set a reminder, on your smartphone, on your calendar, uschesschamps.com, November 5, the next time we are with you in this wonderful Studio B. Until then, International Master Eric Rosen, my name is Ben Simon. We say so long from the Show Me State. This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.